It's me, it's the man who likes to RANT, dropping a fresh VID for you today. And today, our jaunt down the memory lane that is Royal Rumble's past continues. And this time we cover the 1992 Royal Rumble, largely considered to be the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. And we'll get into why that may actually be true a little later in the video. But first, you need the particulars, don't you? Here we go. It was from the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. It took place on the 19th of January, 1992. About 1.8 million people tuned in at home. That's a buy rate relative. And let's get to the card. We start off with a tag team match between the New Foundation, the team of Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Owen Hart, versus the Orient Express. This feels like this whole match, this whole setup, and the whole story they were trying to tell is a trial by fire for Mr. Owen Hart, because he had just come back to the WWEF, whatever you want to call, both can apply at that time, after the Blue Blazer gimmick didn't quite make it over. How fortuitous that gimmick flopped, and that gimmick would ultimately take Owen from us far too soon. I think it was trying to tell us something even back then. But nonetheless, Owen showed that if absolutely necessary, he could do everything in the ring and work every bit as hard as his brother Bret has at this point in his single career. And there was some good back and forth between these two teams. The hot tag between Anvil and Owen at one point after the Orient Express had Owen in trouble for a good portion in the match. It feels like they piped in some crowd noise, because I remember watching that on the VHS and the crowd wasn't nearly as into Jim Neidhart coming in to help out his partner as they appeared to be on the anthology version, which of course has made its way onto the network. But that could just be me. If you have a different perception, please feel free to post down in the comment section below. But good solid match, good action, and good tone setter for the kind of stuff we would see for the rest of this pay-per-view. Next, we had an Intercontinental title match between the Mountie, who, believe it or not, was the champion, against Roddy Piper. Now, for those of you who don't know this event, this match came about after the Mountie had beat Bret at a house show, because Bret, I don't know if this was real or not, had a 104-degree fever and still went out and attempted to wrestle. And then it was deemed that Roddy Piper was the number one contender. This was because his matches with Ric Flair on the house show circuit, because Ric Flair was a part of the company at this time, weren't drawing as well as they expected, and they thought giving Piper an Intercontinental title reign would add some legitimacy and thusly put some more butts in the seats. I do think, on a personal note, as a fan of Mr. Piper, that it is a tragedy that it took this long in his career, and for these reasons, for you to decide to put a little gold around his waist. But better late than never, mistake has been rectified, and Roddy Piper deserved this win. It also would give Piper a chance to make history, because as we know, this was the Rumble where the winner got the vacated WWF title after the nonsense between Hogan and Undertaker at Tuesday in Texas. So Piper would go on to have the opportunity to win both major singles titles in a single evening, something that is unheard of at this point in WWF's history. Solid match. I think everybody knew that the good guy was going to win, so no real surprises, but you got to feel good because a lot of people liked Piper, and like I said, it probably was a welcome surprise to see him have a title around his waist or over his shoulder, so good things all the way around. The next match I honestly forgot existed until I actually went back and watched. It was the tag team of Bo and Blake Beverly, the Beverly Brothers, against the Bushwhackers with Jameson. Jameson is one of those characters where you look at his brief time and you understand almost immediately why it was brief, but you can't help but look at it and say, how could Vince possibly have thought that this was a good idea? That this was going to work and this was going to make money? Answer is it didn't, so that's why Jameson had such a short stay, and we are all bitter for it, may I say. Uh, Staying in the tag team division, next we had um, the Natural Disasters against the WWF Tag Team Champions at the time, the Legion of Doom. Now, this was a unique spot for Legion of Doom because usually they are the bigger and stronger tag team and they know it, and they proceed to throw their opponents around. With Earthquake and Typhoon, you can't do that. At least not as easily. And I don't think this match anybody really could. The biggest thing for me, I don't have a problem that LOD lost by countout, because that's honestly how I'd expect them to counteract a way that LOD can get out of this match and still have the tag titles. My biggest thing, I always hate when heels win a championship match by countout and then think they have won the titles, because these guys have been in WWE for years. And I know when it comes to rules in the professional wrestling business, they're more suggestions than what has actually been set in stone. But the one rule that has existed upon all federations at all times, because it just makes sense, is a champion cannot lose his title on a countout or disqualification loss. And yet here you have the Natural Disasters thinking they won the title, and then they cut a promo saying they should be the champs, and this and that and the other. And it's like, I can't buy that, because you both have been in this company long enough. Granted, you haven't been in a lot of championship matches, but you still have seen enough and heard commentary enough that you know the rules. I know it's okay for heels to look like idiots, but I don't know. This just came across making the Natural Disasters, who were at that time probably the biggest and baddest tag team in WWE, uh, made them look dumber and weaker than I believe was actually the intention. But now, now we come to the crux of the evening, and that is the Royal Rumble match itself. And right here is exactly why, if you took a survey among most wrestling fans, you would find that this is why they think that this is the greatest Royal Rumble that has ever taken place. And let me read you the cast of characters we have. We have, in no particular order, Colonel Mustafa, El Matador, Greg Valentine, Haku, Hercules, Hulk Hogan, Erwin R. Shyster, Jake Roberts, Jim Duggan, Jimmy Snuka, Nikolai Volkov, Randy Savage, Repo Man, Ric Flair, Rick Martel, Roddy Piper, Sergeant Slaughter, Shawn Michaels, Sid Justice, Skinner, Ted DiBiase, The Barbarian, The Berserker, The Big Boss Man, excuse me, the British Bulldog, Texas Tornado, The Undertaker, The Warlord, and Virgil. What that is right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the single greatest cast of characters that have ever been assembled in one ring at any one night in wrestling history. And I defy you, anyone out there, who can produce a better list of wrestling characters, both for nostalgia and at that time current talent that existed. You can't do it. And of course, we know Ric Flair would go on to win this match, lasting almost. Actually, he did apparently last over an hour, according to the commentators, but I think that was reshuffled to 57 minutes because someone actually puts a stopwatch to these things because stats in Royal Rumble matter. But I mean, Flair really came across looking very babyface because he was in there for so long. He never actually hid at any point in the Rumble match. He constantly kept coming, and he lasted, and he looked physically exhausted. I mean, he looked like he literally had nothing left to give. And that made this really special. If you need to understand why Ric Flair is able to call himself the 60-minute man, all you need to do is pull this up on your network subscription, or if you have the anthology collection, you can get that too, and you'll see exactly why this man is considered by and far the greatest wrestler to have ever put on a pair of boots or stepped in a wrestling ring. A fact that I believe still holds true to this day. And in honor of the man that Ric Flair, I'm going to attempt to cut the promo that exists, which we got from the start of the Rumble, which can also be found on the Ultimate Ric Flair collection. It's not going to be perfect. My woo is probably going to be eye rolling, but you know what? Here we go. It's the Royal Rumble. It's the championship on the line. It just means more gold, more trophies, more recognition, more notoriety, longer cars, more women. It just means everything for Ric Flair. Woo! Not bad, not great, but I love that. I get chills every time because you get a little bit of that Ric Flair spark that when he's on the mic talking about himself, talking about his opponent, you can't help but become a fan and realize how great he is. Um, what are your memories on this Royal Rumble match? Do you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite superstar? Were you shocked that Ric Flair, Drew number 3, came out and won this whole thing? Something that Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon hammered into our heads ad nauseum. And it hadn't happened at this point, but at that point you're really taking the mystique out of who is going to win because you have put so much emphasis on this guy that is doing this thing, and how could he then not go win it? But I think that was their way of trying to subtly creep in and do this. And as we all know, WWE has issues with subtlety. But post your comments about this event down in the comment section below. I love to talk wrestling with anybody. If you don't want to miss a video by the Wrestling Ranter, click that subscribe button. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I now post all my extra stuff, you can find me at Wrestling Ranter. Thank you guys for watching. Ranter's going to get off the soapbox. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.